well and enjoying what is a nice Saturday morning. I hope you are all keeping yourselves safe and well. Welcome to what is our third Design Technology Teach Meet. I'm hoping you are all comfortable and cozy at home whilst the weather might not be normal for a May. I'm hoping that you're staying safe and warm at home with a nice coffee. I know I've got one here, which I will enjoy as the morning progresses. We've got a great morning for you guys, and hopefully you're going to learn a great deal to do with design technology to inspire your teaching at whatever level it might be. Please, as we go through the morning sessions, engage with the comments and the stuff on social media through Twitter. The hashtag is the same as always, which is hashtag TMDT Icons. Please use that so that we can see what you're talking about and how you're feeling with regards to the presentation. We've got some really interesting topics. It'll be interesting to see what you are discussing and talking about from it. There is a second little hashtag that we thought we'd put on, and I think it's an important one. It's been an interesting few months, as I'm sure you can all appreciate, with regards to tags and all the work everyone's already been doing around that. So this is a morning that I want everybody to put all that work to one side, leave it for a good couple of hours, sigh of relief, sort of, okay, and enjoy this time just away from any of that stress and strain. So the other hashtag that we're saying that you can put in with the D&T icons this morning is hashtag no tag Saturday. So I think that's important. Have a bit of a rest from all that stuff. I think we're all pretty exhausted and drained from that, but thankfully the light is at the end of the tunnel. We're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. Don't worry. So please use both hashtags with whatever you are sharing on social media this morning. It'd be great to see what you're saying. The other things with regards to this morning with little competitions, we've got some very kindly donated from Teachers Love Stationery some packs of stickers, which teachers love and to use. So if you are interested in winning a pack of these stickers, all you need to do is just engage with those hashtags and sharing and liking and all that kind of stuff on social medias. We will keep an eye on what you are retweeting and hashtagging so that we can see who is worthy of some stickers to send out to you. The other big competition that we've got going on today, and we thank our friends at Hue for this, is we are giving away, not this one specifically, you do get to choose your colour and there are different colours to choose from, but we are giving away one of these Hue webcam live streaming cameras this morning. To be in for a chance to win the camera, here's what you need to do. So it's a photo competition like we've done before, but this time what you need to do with the photo, and again use the hashtags TMDT icons so we know, or no tag Saturdays, or both, even better. I want a photo of you, friends, family, whoever's in the household with you right now, and we'd like you to have a picture with your favorite design book. So this is mine, Terence Conran, which actually is the bookcase behind me. It's an actual Terence Conran, and I love his work. So that's why I would have a photo with this book, and that's what I'd like you guys to do this morning, to be in a chance to win one of these cameras, which are about 50 quid. So it's not a cheap camera, so it's well worth going in for the competition. They are incredibly useful. I know myself and Kate, who's here today, use these with Oak National Academy lessons that we created, so they are really good and professional tools. So if you are wanting to be in for a chance to win that, just take a photo with yourself and your favorite design book, and we will see who is worthy of the camera. And you do, as I said, get to choose what color you would like. There are a range of colors as it shows on the back of my box. So that's what's going on this morning with regards to competitions, and we look forward to seeing your photos and retweets and stuff to get you involved in that. With regards to presenters today, we've got a good range of different topics being covered from Kate Finley, who's here, going to kick off with presentations in a moment. We've got different topics on a variety of different areas to do with D&T that hopefully will give you some ideas as we move to the end of this year, and obviously then into the new academic year in September 21. Let's see what that looks like when it comes round. Otherwise, that's it with regards to how we're going this morning. We'll get the first presenter going in a moment. Kate, if you are ready. If you have any questions for Kate, please do put them into the comment box. We'll have a look and try and get Kate to respond to them. But otherwise, Kate, good to see you this morning. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I can't see anyone, so hopefully you can see me.
Fine, Kate, I will leave it over to you to present your bit. Have fun.
Okay, lovely. So are we all live? That looks all okay, does it? Somebody tell me.
It looks brilliant.
Okay, great stuff. So, hello, my name is Kate Finley, and I'm head of department at a school in Heatherset Academy. And I just thought I'd use this time to share with you some of the work I have done over the last couple of years messing around with materials. I'm not a material scientist. I haven't done a degree in material science. So if you have, and you might be offended, but I love this time of year because it's a time to play in the workshop. And for me, materials are so interesting. We just have to think about using them differently. And here's some of the materials that I'm going to touch on today. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to look at mold making. Now, alginate is my favorite thing to use. You can get like, alginate on a certain website that delivers things really quickly. But the best one I found to use is dental alginate. It's a lot cheaper. You can get it wholesale. You mix it up. The kids can mix it up. We've used, it cleans itself really nicely afterwards. But we had a trainee who used a plant pot with freezer bags, and the kids mushed it all up rather than having to stir it, put it in the plant pot, put their hand in, and they made a lovely little mold of their hand. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we use actual molding materials. But in terms of making the mold, if you've never played with alginate, it's really good fun to play with. Other things, so obviously we've used corrugated cardboard to make molds, but think about natural materials around us. So eggs are great. So I don't know if anyone can guess what material this is, but it's porridge. And porridge with PVA glue is amazing because it just gives a little bit of movement, a little bit of squashiness, and it's readily available. And if children are at home and they have to do a little bit of modelling, it can make some really interesting type of organic shapes. Weetabix does the same thing as well. So let's have a little look at what else we've got. So pouring materials. I think a lot of us would have done things with resin before. And my top tip for resin would be, if it tells you to weigh it out, weigh it out. If it tells you to use, the same part, say 20 millilitres, 20 millilitres, don't just try and trick it, actually measure it out. You can use things like, if you've got children or you've got friends who've got kids, the little Calpol syringes can be quite good if you're measuring jugs run out and things like that. But I went from resin and I loved playing with it. And we had students who used wood and, there's a little ring up there that they made. And then I started to look at the materials I was putting with the resin. So we've had students do really cool stuff with using, we had one student who had a tortoise and they used the grass, the natural grass with all the flowers in and stuff to sort of mess around. And I've really started looking at this making a silicone mold. So making the silicone molds ourselves. You can tell the bottom of this is a bit thin, and using other materials. So this is coffee grounds. It's about 2 years old now and it still smells of coffee. Really interesting with coffee, depending on how you cure it, you can get one side that's lighter than the other. That makes, quite interesting if you're exploring that. Tea is a really interesting one. You would think that tea would be a lighter colour, but it's not. So using tea leaves can be quite interesting. This one's been moulded in a yogurt pot. Okay, so quite good fun if you're into that sort of thing. I found when I went to New Designers in London, and that's amazing. So if you're trying to cast something in detail, I'll talk about my ears later, but this ear is a great example. If you're trying to cast something in detail, it dries really quickly and it takes the shape really quickly. So like a thumbprint, you can actually get the thumbprint impression, which is great. And you can mix it with other materials. You can put it with shredded plastic or whatever. Plaster of Paris is fantastic because it's cheap, it's readily available. It's not, you don't need lots and lots of health and safety using it around it. And if you're using it with a class, you can use it. I think probably my top tip for doing things. If you're pouring materials, try and do small things. When you start to try and mold big things, it gets expensive, it gets messy. So yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at the next. Oh, I missed one. Okay, combining. So a couple of years ago, I started messing around with mycelium, which is such good fun. I know IKEA have done loads of stuff on mushrooms, but I just wanted to share this with you. Top tip, be careful what mushrooms you buy, what spores you buy. You can get the right stuff. To stop it growing, you can cover it in PVA glue. But essentially, if you mix the mycelium with a roughage, so maybe flour or sawdust or something like that, and we've put sugar in as well and a little bit of moisture, and allow it to grow, it will get bigger. I don't think I've done enough in this area, but I just wanted to show you one of the things that one of my students did. So they wanted a light to go outside, but they were looking at more eco-friendly materials. And so they set everything up. HDPE milk bowls are amazing for this because obviously everything comes off it really easily. They use plasticine to get things down. We had a problem with moisture, so they had to cover everything because obviously there's moisture coming out of where the mycelium's all mixed up. They had a go at painting it, covering it in PVA glue. What was the better way? Putting it outside in the rain. So this was really great fun, and I would definitely encourage you to do that. It's loads in the news about using mushroom packaging and things like that as well at the moment. Okay, so reusing. So you've used your tea leaves for your resin, but have you ever thought about using tea bags? And I found out the other day that there's some tea bags are really biodegradable. So PG tips, totally biodegradable, no plastic in them. Yorkshire tea has plastic in them. So essentially we're putting plastic into our tea, but these sew really well. So that's the ones we're using. Creates a really strong material. And that might be interesting if you were sort of messing around with materials and stuff like that. Obviously, there's loads online at the moment about shredding plastics, and we've done that. So you've got acrylic shredded down. Sorry if you can hear shouting in the background, it's my kids. Using HDPE and HIPS is really great, but maybe don't just think about shredding plastics. Think about stripping them down. So HDPE, although it does snap, when you mix many layers together, it becomes really strong. And obviously they're using plastics and things in trainers and stuff now. So maybe think about using those materials in a different way. And as well, you know, think about what's around us, say masks. I love this parcel tape. It sews really nicely as well. Strengthening, reinforcing materials, hot topic at the moment. Here's another example of something some students have done. So one of my students worked with another member of staff in my department, looking at transferring images onto veneer. Then they looked at sewing them, really playing around with the materials. I really love this. This is quite exciting for me, you know, not going down that traditional project route, looking at where the materials take you. And I thought I'd pop on there as well. If anyone's had a go at making your own plastics, you'll know how fun that is. Caroline, who I used to work with, we started off playing around with milk. Quick little story about using cooking oil for this, but you can use glycerin as well, and that's in some recipes. One night, I was due to do this with an A-level group. I was driving home, there wasn't any glycerin. The pharmacist said to me, you could use suppositories. And I went, okay. A-level kids were fine with it. They couldn't believe that I'd managed to package all their ingredients up for them. It was amazing. If you've never had a go at this, it's very easy to do, great to do with a class, quite hot when it comes out the microwave, shape it really quickly. You can get some really interesting shapes from it as well. Ears. Okay, so molding. I've really been messing around with how we use molds, how we can mess around in the workshop with molding and shaping and getting ideas from students that isn't just sketching. So we started, my technician said, well, why don't we just layer it up and do it more traditionally? So we lasered some ears. We then got some silicone ears. I wanted them to have a swimming hat on and do their own ears, but again, my technician said, Kate, that's an A&E journey waiting to happen. So silicone ears, and then we use the alginate, then we use the dental alginate, and then we use the desmite, and we've got some lovely solid ears out of it. And then the students could start molding, and what they've been doing is they've been molding like little hearing aids like this, but also looking, Julie Boyd brought out some stuff the other day, didn't she, about using jewelry. So they've been doing some stuff like that as well. So it's been quite an interesting project for them to look through, really focusing on designing and making. But I love the fact we got the modelling and the materials into it. So very quickly, because I know that Tom and Drew are going to be on at me for time, I really love messing around with materials. And I think this is really well placed actually at Key Stage 3. Our students are coming from Key Stage 2 now, in a situation that probably modern foreign languages found themselves in 10 years ago. They're not playing with materials. Their experiences are cardboard and cakes maybe. But actually knocking down the barriers of subjects and starting to look at materials, everyday materials that are around the home that we've got to play with in a safe and a learning way and a learning and nourishing environment is really going to help our students become broader learners. I've just put 2 products down there that I found when I allowed myself to go into a shop the other day. And I'm sort of looking at these products. And obviously this is Jessamite as well. And I'm thinking, do they really look massively out of place with all my pile of crazy materials that me and the students have been playing with? No, I think not. So maybe it is time as teachers, we all start to rethink our approaches to how we use materials. Thanks very much for listening. I've put my details at the bottom. If you have any questions, please do email me. I'll always try and get back to you, or pop it in the chat, or you can follow us at Made in Heverset, where we are always putting updates of what we're doing as a department. Thanks very much.
That was great. I found that truly, truly fascinating. I was just tweeting it out as well, actually, just then. Yeah, Kate, where did you come up with those ideas of the tea and the coffee? How did that even come to? Where did that even come from?
I think I've been playing with resin, and it was expensive, and I started thinking about how we could, put other things in it. I think at the time we just got a shredder, and so I was messing around with that. But
that was my fault.
No, that's fine. I thought that was me then.
I was trying to help Kate to remove her screen so then she could see you. And by doing that, I kicked her out of the whole stream. So I'm sorry, Kate.
That's fine. We'll carry on the topic. We'll carry on the conversation on Twitter. That's fine. It's Dave next, anyway.
I just got kicked off. Anyway, we'll talk about it another time. Message in the chat and I'll answer anything if anyone's got any questions.
Kate, it was nothing personal, I promise. I was actually trying to help you out. You know, it's just the way.
All this technology, too much technology in there. That's the problem. Kate, thank you so much for that as well. I thought it would truly. I was sitting and just really interesting to see the use of different materials. Actually, I've not seen that before. I was really fascinated. Thank you.
Well, that's great. And if you're in Norfolk, we've got a job advertised at the moment. So there you go.
There, who wants to go and work with Kate? I couldn't say no to that personally. I would absolutely take that opportunity. So anyone interested, whereabouts where can they find the advert?
Just outside Norwich. I've put it on Twitter this morning. It's on the Facebook group. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, the advert's out and about, so get applying. Top Brum.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Yes, morning. The only thing that Kate didn't refer to was the use of toothpaste in her array of materials there. And also, I do apologise if it looks like I've got some on my face. It's not. It's the greyness of the beard. Obviously, the last 12 months has told its toll. So there we go.
Well, we can all sympathise with that, definitely. Yeah. Toothpaste is an interesting one. I've not thought about toothpaste. That's quite. Yeah, I suppose toothpaste could be. I suppose if you mix it with things, yeah.
It's a good cleaning product for things other than the teeth as well.
Very, very true. Very, very true. I'll hand over to you, dear sir.
Thank you. I'll just get this up on screen, and somebody can tell me whether it's there. Is it there?
Yes.
Hello, is it there?
Yes, it is. You're all
Fantastic. And as Kate said, I can't see myself, which is probably a good thing. So obviously, please let me know if there's an issue. Very, very brief this morning, you'll be pleased to hear. I actually teach my daughter GCSE D&T, and she often says to me, "Oh, you weren't half rambling today." So I am going to keep it very, very brief this morning. You'll be pleased to hear. My sort of presentation is about something called 3 Steps to Success. So during lockdown, we've obviously been in year group bubbles like a lot of us nationally. And we've had a lot of our students that have been stuck in various rooms around the school. We've not had access to our facilities and things like that. And I was very, very conscious that we wanted to coach our students and prepare them through all the assignments that they were doing, and also particularly in year 9 and year 10, preparing them for the NEA. And we sort of came up with these sort of 3 steps to success, as we've called it. And we've started to embed this in all of our assignments and units that we do across sort of Key Stage 3 and 4. And you might notice the banner at the bottom of the screen there. I shared that with, I think it was at the first TeachMeet Icons back in the summer last year. And that's something that we've also embedded within all our PowerPoints with all our units. So that's just something called the D&T fundamentals, which I think you can look up on past presentations. So what does the 3 steps to success look like? That is pretty much it. What we've done is we've taken things and we've split them into sort of 3 categories. But what I must say at this point is the categories and some of the things in the categories do come across from one category to another. So it's not necessarily a linear process. But what we have done is we've segregated it out into these 3 defined steps, hence the 3 steps to success. So the first one, we've got analyze and investigate. So we're obviously coaching our students to look at the who, the what, the why, the where, the when. The who is a particularly interesting one for me, looking at the stakeholders and not just the person that's directly affected by a situation or a need, but also looking at other people that are potentially affected. So that's something that we've been working on recently and working on that a lot. Obviously, researching, discovering, discussing, presenting, interviewing, understanding, empathizing, recognizing, and identifying. So we've sort of categorized all of that as analyzing and investigating and finding things out. Then we move on to the second step, which is the highlighting, defining, and specifying. So what are the issues? What are the problems? What are the difficulties? What are the needs? What are the situations? What requirements are there? What wants is there? Obviously, with the user or a client at the heart of this process. And then setting the scene, maybe using a preamble or referring to a context, defining, specifying, justifying, and highlighting. So just to put that into context, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we did some work with our year 10s just prior to the 1st of June context release. And we were talking to them about various sections of the NEA. And we were talking about and revisiting design briefs and specifications. So we put the 3 steps to success up on the screen, as we have been doing all year. And the words defining and specifying were in bold and were larger on screen. So they could see where the design brief and the specification sits within the whole structure of the NEA. And this is why we use the 3 steps to success. So every so often when we're talking about something specific, or we're teaching them a skill, or we're revisiting a particular aspect, we can put this up and we can have the words in bold. So just trying to keep it very, very, very simple. Then we move on to the articulating and the communicating. So we've obviously got the design or the designing, suggesting, proposing, sketching in 2D and 3D, drawing in 2D and 3D, using CAD packages, labeling, annotating, photographing and recording, telling a story, which is a critical one for me and has been for many years now, describing, explaining, justifying, reviewing and evaluating, modifying, changing and adapting, modeling, making mock-ups, experimenting, discovering, and obviously manufacturing, prototyping. And we've also got testing and gaining feedback. So you can see there's a whole raft of things that we've put in the step of articulating and communicating. But I'm just going to go back to what I said before, many of these things do go across the other categories. So it's not, oh, we're going to do everything in category 1 first. It might be that you're doing something in category 3 or category 2 before one of the others. It's just trying to get the students to understand how they can break their work down, and also the work that they're doing at any one time, where it potentially fits. What we've also done is we've taken the section A, B, C, D, E and F for the NEA, and we've started to look at putting the banners of analyse, investigate, highlight, define, specify, and articulate and communicate across the top, so they can see how the sections in the NEA sit with this 3 steps to success. And since we've been using it towards the start of lockdown, we've talked to students, we've got students' feedback, and they've found this really, really useful. And it was certainly very useful during remote learning, because whatever we were doing, we just pop the 3 steps to success up, and we'd say to the students, right, you're doing this at the moment, where do you think it fits? And it's just become embedded in their everyday practice. They're seeing it in PowerPoints, they're seeing it in displays, and it's helping them to break things down with whatever they're doing. So that's sort of my little bit over. If you want to find out more, please get in contact with me. Those of you that know me will know, obviously, Top Run D&T. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You can email me directly. I'm always at the end of an email. I never say no to anybody. All about sharing resources. And also I'm on Pinterest as well. And the one thing that isn't on there is Instagram, but I'm also on there as well. So please feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much.
Dave, thanks very much for that. That's incredibly simplistic as a way of doing the success for the GCSE. With your GCSE students, have they found it a more engaging way of working than, say, just having, you know how people always very often print out loads of stuff from the specifications, but actually just having these really clear, easy to follow steps? Is that allowed them to be more sort of fluid with their designing?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you can share the criteria with students as much as you want, you know, you can have them on displays and things like that, but I think sometimes they just do need it in its very simplest form. And that's certainly something, you know, we're finding, us, as Kate mentioned earlier, we're finding that we're doing, we're teaching GCSE content to Year 7 students. Only yesterday I'm talking to Year 7 students about wastage and addition, you know, and these are words that we would perhaps traditionally use at Key Stage 4. So we've even started using it in Key Stage 3. So just using that very simple, I've always been one for little words, you know, things like jump to funk and things like that. So just to have the 3 steps to success and just having that as a single slide, we've just found as you just whack it up, it's there, and they just can identify with things really, really quickly. And we found that for our students in our school, in our situation, we found that really, really useful. So it will probably go through a few tweaks, as things always do. But at the moment, it's certainly working really well.
That's the iterative process. There you go. The iterative process. We'll just keep changing. Cylindrical. Absolutely. No, that's great. Thanks, David. Much appreciated. We are going to hit, I believe Brett should be there. Brett, yes. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely fine. Tickety boo.
Brilliant.
Coming through. Actually, it's Eurovision this evening, isn't it? So it's like coming across from different parts of the country. But
I sound like I'm going to land a plane. Nice
to have you here this morning. Thank you so much, as always, for sponsoring these events. It's hugely helpful for us to be able to put these things on and to share the work with people across the curriculum. I'll hand over to you, actually, just so that you can get talking about some truly interesting, engaging tools that we can use within our school to help children progress with their learning. So, Brett, I'll hand over to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Again, appreciated. Very, very short and sweet. We've been sponsoring the event now, I think, for close to 4 years. So, you know, it's incredible to see people semi-dedicated on a Saturday morning. we're just really passionate about supporting the teaching community, much as that previous presentation. It might resonate with you, some of the things we're about to talk about this morning, but we've got some stuff you can access for free at no cost. Excuse me, and I'm not just talking about our actual kind of software and how to trial that, but also some things that you want to be able to get your teeth into right now. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to share screen, and there's always a brief awkward delay, so hopefully just bear with me. That should start loading up now, and I'm actually just going to show you. Perfect. So if you actually go to pupilprogress.com, there's some things that we've been working on that it could be useful for you right now. Everyone is obviously knee deep in tags. So if you actually go to pupilprogress.com, go all the way to the bottom, you'll see that we have a webinar section. Now, we did a whole load of webinars that are subject specific. Now, these live webinars have all run out, but if you go to the webinar recordings, you probably have your tags process in place, which is absolutely fine. If there's anyone out there that is actually still looking for some confidence, or still looking for some questions to be answered, please feel free to access these recordings. There's no sign up, there's no registration required. If you actually go to the recordings, you'll see here, preparing for tags, pupil progress. All of them are subject specific, and you'll be able to access a subject specific. Actually, under the ensuring fair and accurate grades, that was our first set that were actually rather than faculty. Our second wave were faculty based. You can see that we've got design technology webinar. Have a watch of it. Might be useful. There might be something there that resonates with you. Because it's a recording and no sign up, you'll be able to just kind of flick through. It might be helpful for you right now. I will talk more about our grant enabled access. I'm going to show you the software now and how it might be useful. You might want to gain some confidence with adding data to check that you've got the right weightings. Again, that's all accessible at the bottom of the page. To click on grant enabled access, you can see here that will take you to this page. Also, creating your account will allow you to either start a free trial or actually physically. Now, this grant enabled access is 2 subject areas at 0 cost to the school up until the 31st of August. We received a grant that's enabled us to support. We've been supporting over the full COVID period. I mean, close to 3,500 schools. Even if you just wanted to look at how your tracking sheet wants to look, and just use our, grant enabled access to have a look and take some ideas. Honestly, feel free. Just go and have a look at how we're doing it. I'm actually going to show you some of our software now, so you actually get an idea of what we actually do. So ultimately what we do, I mean, I'm full confession, I'm pretty honest with my approach. I was a former PE teacher, so I'm not going to try and pretend that I'm in the design technology space, but our sole purpose is to try and make that tracking and monitoring process as easy as possible. And to put bluntly, what we have done is actually just taken all the best bits of Excel and just made it into a software so you can actually access it really, really quickly. So what you're looking at here is an example of a tracker that will actually calculate the grade exactly as the exam board would. And I'm actually going to open this tracker here with some data in there, and I'm going to show you a little bit about its core structure. So I'm actually just going to dive in a little bit. What you're looking at here, as you can see, it is exactly as the exam board. So this is for AQA exams only for the year 11. So we've made the adjustments. A couple of really exciting things is, sadly, there's no annotation tools on this one. So I usually be able to squiggle some lines here and show you, but what you can see is it's broken down really clearly into components. You've got an actual calculated grade for each unit, and it's also telling you how they're doing against their minimum target grade. And again, all of these are calculated against the grade boundaries that are set from June 2019. We were obviously going to add, and we do add, all the boundaries for you. So again, that's taking away the stress of you having to, work out what are the new and latest releases. We are advising for grades, for tags process, that if you have made the decision to use grade boundaries, that you would use June 2019. You can see here, when we get back into the swing of normal exams, you'll be able to make adjustments. So for example, when we have that exam series in 2022, we'll be able to see the difference between 2022 and 23 and start to be able to actually take some advice and say, look, we would advise you add 3% if you're now going to start looking at your 2023 exams. But again, it's all making those calculations for you, so you don't have to find a way of your spreadsheet doing so. The really nice thing, and this kind of goes back to what the presentation previously was talking about, just being really well informed. What you can see is it's going to calculate a grade against the minimum target grade. You can see which students are in and on target. Green is working at, amber is working one grade below, red is working actually below. If you actually change the minimum target grade and the student is working above, it will go blue. So you can see who's working above target 2. But really nicely here, what it will also show you is how many marks the students are away from their next grade 2. So intervention takes a real step up when you can see if you've got a group of students that are 1 grade away but only 3 or 4 marks away, and therefore we know exactly who's at that tipping point. We can look at different groups of students who are much further away and what attention do they need, and those students that are close to either achieving 1 above or actually their actual target grade. Something that's really nice, and I found this as a massive, so I used this system for 2 years before I decided to leave teaching to start pupil progress. This individual report that you can pull up here breaks down the qualification exactly, so the student can see exactly what grade they're working at and why, and you can communicate with the student. Now, data is, the numbers only tell one side of the story, and as a PE teacher that really hated data, I'm really passionate about actually the story behind the data, not just the numbers that you want to pass to the data lead, who's a mathematician most of the time. And the story here is what we want to be able to say to the student is, this is, this number one, this is how well you're doing, or if you're not, let's keep calm because here's our clear strategy of how we're going to get there. Secondly, the students seeing the report on their, in their folders with their name on, creates ownership, and it's not the teacher's responsibility. One of my biggest bugbears, students, I was in London school, that it's your responsibility for my grades. When we start shifting actually the responsibility because it becomes subconsciously theirs, it changes the dynamic. When we start looking and telling the story about the data, about how far they are away, and start to say this is what we need from you to get you there, it then increases motivation. So there's lots of actual psychological benefits to this, not just numbers benefits, and that is ownership and motivation. Not only that, parents' evening is an absolute breeze, but not only a breeze, it is super focused. Parents absolutely love this. They are able to see exactly what's going on. I had really subconsciously, it was a parent would look at me, and then they would look at the report, and then they would look at the child and say, right, how am I going to work with the teacher to make this happen? Because quite clearly the teacher knows exactly what's going on. There is no question of your processes. There is no question of what you do or don't know. It's a question of, right, what are we going to do? And very positively, the accountability is placed on the child, and therefore, we start to discuss, right, what are the actions rather than who's to blame or not. Let's talk about what we're going to do moving forward. Did you go to intervention on Friday? Okay, no worries. Why not? You need to be there next week, don't you? Very, very simply. So second of all, obviously, this is the core structure of the tracker. Now, we've made it really, really easy for you to be able to add tests. So in this show tools here, you can see that you can add tests. You can keep everything in line with your own processes. So you don't have to follow the methodology of what, we've kept the calculation of the grade consistent with the exam board. If I wanted to add a past paper here, so you can see I've got in the yellow paper 1. If I actually click on add past paper, I'll be able to say to go to design technology, and then I'll be able to choose my unit, and then I'll be able to name that test a mock. Let's just call this maybe a May mock. And then I would be able to add that to my class. Nice and simply, that's just going to replicate that unit exactly as the exam board calculates it. And so when I go to my tracker, now we've got a development that actually is going live very shortly that basically just takes you straight back to the tracker. And what you'll be able to see is you'll be able to add those tests, and you can see that that's added there. There's my main mock, and that will also then calculate an average grade for me. I can also go back to that and actually decide whether I want that to be included in the calculation of the working at grade or not. And you can see here that I've added an NEA, an adjusted mock 2. Now also, I can just add an end of topic test. So if I'm actually looking at a specific element of the course, I can actually say, well, I'd like to include this in the written paper. This is a topic test, and it's going to cover actually question level analysis, and it's actually going to cover topic AO1 and I'm actually going to say that was a 20 mark section here. And then actually I'm going to add another section. This was section A, for example, and then this is section B of the paper. And then I'd actually be able to tag that against AO2 if this is something I'm trying to target because I've noticed that students are underperforming on. And then again, very simply, I would then just be able to select the classes I want to add that to. So again, it's just literally taking the fuss out of your tracking and monitoring processes so you can focus on strategy and what it is you need to teach, not how do I get the information and how do I find that. So this is the last bit I'm going to show you. What you can see is...
Sorry, mate. I've literally just cut you off. I'll put you back on. Hang on. I think it's just come off the stream. Wait a second. There you go.
Perfect. Are you? No worries. Are we on? Are we live?
Yeah, you're on. Yeah.
Perfect. So what you can see is essentially, nice and simply, how easy it is to actually tailor the tracking to your current curriculum delivery processes. So it's not just fixed. We know that has to be super agile. We know that you're going to have different ways. Your department have developed ways, so you've got buy-in with your team. But what you can see here is it's feeding into that topic summary. So not only are you knowing what grades they're working at, you're now understanding why and how and what topic areas are an issue. I'm just going to speedily go through to analysis because I'm also conscious I don't want to waffle on too much because I just want to give you a nice overview. You can go and dive on there and try it yourself. What's really nice about this is it pulls all that data that you need together for any line management discussions. Everything is absolutely live. So, you know, I would wake up in the morning and having some form of RAP or raising attainment progress meeting or a discussion with my line manager. All the data that I need is to hand, downloadable, printable, so I can take that to meetings. How are my 4s doing? How are my 7+ is doing? How are my males, females doing? All pulled through into a central place. So again, I'm focusing on marking. I'm focusing on making sure that my lessons are as engaging, as enjoyable as possible. I'm not focusing on the stress of a meeting which I don't have the information that someone else wants. And again, it's information that drives teaching and learning. It's not information that's just designed to fill a data point 1, 2, or 3. This is actually driving your next lessons, and that's what we're most passionate about. And then if you are anyone on that is a senior manager, you can also then show a grade summary across the whole entire school. So we've got qualifications. We've got something like 600 and something odd trackers that across every specification qualification, if you're delivering something that we haven't actually got on our system, we'll be able to build it within the morning. So you've now got a completely clear overview and also key stage 4 grade analysis of the P8 score, A8 score, so that anyone at senior management level can see exactly what's going on across the whole entire school and the impact of targeted intervention within specific groups and specific areas. The very last thing I'm going to show you is just how many qualifications we have. So you can see here, we've got engineering as well. So if I actually go to subject, engineering and construction, you can see that we've got all vocational qualifications, also A-level, GCSE. So it's not just specific to specific exam boards. So, you know, please do have a look at this, because if you're a department that delivers GCSE A-level and you're attached to engineering and construction, everything pulls through into one central place and every teacher has their own logins. Everything is supported by our support team. So if you do have any questions, if you did want to use it, you can actually just directly talk to those people. I have questions either pedagogically, and then at the top you also have a help area that allows you to see exactly how to use the software at any point. So just give it a go. Feel free to take some ideas. If you do have any questions about the tags and you're not going to use our software, it's not a problem. Just give us a call. You know, physically, you can just literally give us, send us a message. I'd happy to have a personal conversation with you about tags, even if you said, look, Brett, I'm not going to use your software, but I've got some questions about tags.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Brett. Lots of really important information there. And I'm sure many of us out there in the DT community and other subjects would obviously benefit from using a system like that. And obviously with all the information that's going on at the moment and the amount of data that we do have to collect, it's a really useful tool. So I'm sure many people on here will be getting in touch, and thank you. And is it pupil premium not pupil premium, pupil premium. Pupilprogress.com.
Pupil Progress. Thank
Pupil
you.
Progress.
Thanks to Brett. Thanks, Brett. Thanks a lot.
Cool. So next we've got Ali Price. Are you ready, Ali?
I am. I'm hoping that you can see what's there.
There we go. Fantastic. Morning, Ali. I'm going to swiftly hand over to you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is give you a bit of an overview of a department profile, which if you're a member of the Data Association, you may have actually seen this in the latest D&T Practice magazine. You may have even read it already, but 1,400 words isn't a huge amount to actually talk about everything that we've been doing. So I'm just going to touch on a few bits that perhaps isn't in the article, but certainly might be useful for you to think about in terms of your own school, where you're at the moment, and where you want to be headed as well. So hopefully you can see on screen there, I've worked on 5 key principles since I started in my school, what will be 2 years ago in September. When I joined, it was a bit of a pickle. There had been various things that had been in place for a really, really long time. And I think a lot of the things that were there hadn't really been questioned as to why they were still happening, rather than looking at it objectively and going, right, what are our students actually learning? What do we want to achieve? Where is this department going? Now, I know that's not going to be the same for every school. Some people will have really good practices in place. Some might be newer schools and have had departments set up more recently. Some might have been recently merged in with art, which I know is happening across a lot of schools. But certainly for my school, when I joined, it wasn't where I wanted it to be. I'm still not where I want to be at the moment, but we're certainly making progress and getting towards that point. And we've done that through these 5 key principles. So the first one was a curriculum redesign. When I started, I noticed very much that students were doing rather than actually learning. And if you ask them, okay, so what have you actually learned through that activity or that lesson or that unit of work, they couldn't really tell you, which was really, really hard to try and understand that they didn't know what they were doing or why they were doing it. So that was something that I really wanted to focus on, in that all of our Key Stage 3 projects have been sort of tweaked, moving away from this idea of discrete projects of you learn this in this area, you learn this in this area, etc., etc. It's trying to sort of interweave different skills and themes across the different subject disciplines, which we've still got an awful lot of work to do on that. It's going to take time for that to work its way through, particularly as the cohorts come through. Pandemic obviously hasn't helped. We've spent most of the year with Key Stage 3 lessons in maths classrooms, like a lot of other schools. Next term, we are apparently going back into DT rooms, which will be great. It will be nice to actually get them into the room because they've never even been in there. And get them exposed to various different elements of DT that they previously haven't actually seen. So the curriculum was really, really crucial. The plans that we had in place haven't quite worked out how we would have wanted because of the pandemic, but we know that from September, well, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening from September, but we know that we have a much more rigorous plan in place to actually try and broaden students' knowledge of DT. We use Google Classroom in our school, and practically every week there's like 2 or 3 articles that we'll find from Twitter, from various design related websites, that I will just keep posting them onto Classroom for them. A number of them the students don't read, but there are always a lot of them that they do read, and they will then ask the question and say, oh, but did you read this? It's like, yes, I did read it because I posted it. And it's actually getting them talking about D&T in a way that they haven't done before. So that's always a really useful thing to try and link extracurricular sort of knowledge in with what you're doing in lessons, but also just drip feeding that DT is important, if not the most important subject, and making sure that they're aware of it as well. The second thing that we looked at was our facilities. My school is over 130 years old, so it's not exactly a new build. There are a lot of rooms that have been rejigged throughout the years to try and make them more suitable and accommodate for increasing pupil numbers, etc., etc. So that the setup isn't quite how I would have wanted it to be, but again, it's going through all that time when the students weren't in school and just basically gutting it and really almost starting again with what you've got and making the most of the space that you've got. And that's had a massive impact in our school, because actually we're now at a point where the governors have just agreed for us to literally completely gut a workshop and redo it. So that's probably about 50, 60 grand to actually get that done, ready for September, because we've got increasing numbers in Key Stage 4, which I'll come on to in a second. But just really thinking about, how do you want your spaces to look? Quite often DT, particularly if it is an older school, will be, you know, sort of tucked away at the back somewhere. It's the kind of area that people don't go to unless they have to. We've really tried to change that, to invite people in, to make it brighter, to make it more engaging and more exciting, so that people want to come down rather than feeling that they have to, or they come down because something's broken or they need something fixing, because that's what normally happens. And we have a whole range of different displays around the department, and our department has a stairway in it as well, which then goes up to geography and round to maths. But we've kind of taken over all of that area because it wasn't being used. So we've made the most of that to try and really promote our subject. And I think, just moving on to the third point, branding and promotion is really, really crucial, particularly in this day and age where we know that DT numbers for students and indeed teachers are reducing. It's how do you actually promote your subject to make it something that people want to be engaged with. And you know, the methods that you can use for doing that are the same as if you're promoting anything, whether it's, I don't know, deodorant, toothpaste, you know, new supercar, whatever it is that you're trying to promote. You've got to think about, how is that going to come across to other people? And it's not just about your students. I've got to think about people that are, well, or certainly will be coming back to visit the school. I mean, we've got some Year 5 taster days coming up in July. What is their first impression of DT going to be like? Is it going to be that, you know, scary, dark, dingy room that people don't want to go to? Is it going to be, you know, a bright and engaging and inviting area that actually everybody is talking about? And that's what we really try to achieve. And I would say that we are well on our way to getting there. We've still got work to do. We've got a couple of other rooms that we, you know, need to look at and switch around, and that will then help with our promotion as well. But we're at a point where our DT numbers for Key Stage 4 have more than tripled. They've nearly quadrupled in actual fact in just 2 years, because of all the things that we're putting in place to try and promote the subject. And as part of that, skipping down to the fifth point, is actually getting it out there to other people about what we do. So every week we post something into the school blog. Basically, I write the school blog, and then other people add to it. But it's getting that message out there. What do we actually do in DT? Because there are so many people, students, parents, governors, other members of staff, that say, oh yeah, well, I remember my days in DT, we made such and such, or yes, this, you know, this room was exactly like that when I was at school. It's like, I don't want that. I want our department to be, you know, kind of at the forefront of the school, the way that we are developing our curriculum, our offer, the engagement and interest that students are showing. We've got to be pushing it forward. So that blog entry every week is a way of actually saying to parents, right, we don't do woodwork anymore. We don't do sewing or home economics, because that's the language that they still use, because the time that they were at school, that's what it was. But we've got to try and communicate with everybody that actually we have moved on since those times, which we as professionals, we know that, but how are we communicating that with other people? And that's perhaps a question that you might want to think about in your own school. How are you actually saying to people, this is what we do? Because I think getting that message out there is really, really crucial. I mean, we could talk about it all day long because that's what we do. It's our subject and we love it. But how can we get other people on board with what our passions and interests are? So we also run various different competitions for students, but alongside that, we always have a staff category as well, which initially didn't work too well because people were really busy and people are still really busy. But we have had a number of entries, and getting the students talking to other teachers saying, well, what's your entry? And actually hearing them have that competitive talk has been really, really nice. because then you're actually pushing your subject further than just your department. So it's definitely something that I would encourage other schools to at least think about. Could you run a competition, not just for students, but have a staff category as well? And it's all just about raising that profile. And that can really, really develop your department within your school, within your local area, depending on how far you want to go. But it's definitely something to think about. And I'm kind of skipping between the different points here, but if we look at celebrating success, you're talking about how are you actually recognizing the achievements of your students within lessons, across units of work, across the subject disciplines, across your school, and indeed entries into competitions that might be national or international. What do you actually do to kind of promote that and celebrate that? Now, one of the things that we do is we send postcards home, which I know a lot of schools do. We handwrite ours, which takes time. It does take time, but the sense of pride that the student and the parent gets from actually receiving something that's handwritten is immense. I've had some really, really positive feedback from a whole range of different people saying that actually I've stuck it up on my fridge at home, or it's gone. I've had one recently saying, "Oh, it's gone into a little scrapbook of all the different certificates and things that my child has achieved." And I thought that's fantastic. So it's about getting the parents engaged with it as much as the student, because students, they don't tend to tell parents what they're doing at school. I don't really understand why, but they don't. But it's definitely something that you could do to sort of engage parents and really get that conversation about TET happening. Because I say there are too many historical misconceptions about the subject that is being transferred onto students because of what their parents think and their parents' experience. And that's not just unique to DT, it's a general thing, but how are we changing it as a department, as a subject? What are we doing to actually bring ourselves to the forefront and making sure that everybody knows what we are about, so that we're not this old, antiquated, oh, well, I just do this down in the corner of the school. What are we actually doing? So I think it's really crucial to be clear on what you are trying to achieve. So we've got three key questions there. So what are you trying to achieve? Where do you want your department or your lesson or your activity? Depends what sort of level you want to look at. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to go with this? And then how are you going to do it? And that's always perhaps the hardest question. You might have a wonderful vision, but what are you actually going to do to make that happen? And how are you going to know that it's happened and that the impact has been what you want it to be? Now, those three questions they're nothing new in education, but it's about thinking about it on those different levels. So an activity, a lesson, a scheme of work, a department discipline, a subject as a whole, then as a school. If you can actually put a plan in place for each of those different levels, then you can work perhaps more directly, I guess, to be on your way to achieving that. So that is just a very, very sort of quick overview of my department. Every department is different. I'm not saying that this is the be all and end all, this is the way that you have to do it, but there's certainly just some suggestions there to help you. And like the others, if you have any questions, if you want any advice, I can offer you my thoughts. I'm not the expert, but I can certainly say that working on these 5 key principles has completely changed the department at my school. We've got the art department that now don't particularly like us, putting it mildly. They don't hate us, but we are the only subject, or out of all the creative subjects, where our numbers have gone up. Every other creative subject this year has taken a massive hit, probably because we've got them all. But it just shows that if you put the hard work in, which we're all doing, but if you do it in a structured way, then actually you can see the benefits of it like quite quickly. 2 years is all it's taken. Key Stage 4 tripled, more than tripled. A-level numbers have tripled. We've got more curriculum offer at A-level as well. So all these things take time, but it definitely is worth it.
They do take time, don't they? But as you say, it is worth it in the end, isn't it?
Definitely is.
Yeah, because you brought that. truly transformational change to that department. And I think most of us here today who are presenting who lead and run and have involvement with departments have all probably experienced that, where you've gone into a department that might not be necessarily doing the best it could be, but actually by really reinventing and revitalizing the whole sort of curriculum and structure and setup, suddenly the kids are desperate. And like you have, I know I have at my academy, and in previous school, suddenly you've got too many kids for spaces.
Yeah, next year, if it continues, then we're going to have to limit our number of places. We're already oversubscribed in food, and we have to limit it. The same will happen for DT and our textiles offer.
Fantastic. No, it's great to hear, Ali, it really is, because you've done a lot of work down there in Kent, especially as that's now a variant of this disease. So you're famous for that. But obviously you've done some fantastic work there. And actually, did you say how you have a previous connection with that school?
No, I didn't.
Go on, tell them.
So it's a school that I used to go to as a student, which I think has actually worked in my favour, because I have been able to go to my head teacher and the governors and say, well, actually, that was exactly like it when I was at school back in 19 whatever. And they've gone, oh, I didn't realise that. It's like, yeah, it hasn't actually changed in however many years. They're like, right, straight away, we'll get onto that. You can prove there's been, there hasn't been the investment that's been needed in this particular department, and hence why, we're in phase one of maybe 3 or 4 of getting the department revitalized, investment, and just getting it to where it should be.
Great. No, it's great. It's really good. And I think that does
all
help.
Possible. That's the key message. Anything is possible.
Absolutely.
You've just got to bide your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is possible if you just put your time into it and look at the longer. I always say it's a 5-year plan, and take it from there. So it's really good. Thank you, and it's much appreciated. And good luck with all the stuff that's going on down there. It sounds really good. Just as a reminder, before you carry on, we carry on with the next one, because I've got Ryan from the Design Technology Association. He's got a video that I'm going to present. Just a reminder, don't forget to be using the hashtag TMDT icons and no tag Saturdays for the stickers and stuff. I've also been seeing some photos online. Remember, if you are wanting to win one of the Hue visualizer cameras and of a color of your choice that's been very generously donated from our sponsor Hue, please make sure you're taking a photo of yourself with your favorite design book. There are some interesting ones that I've seen already. Thank you to those who have already actively engaged that. If you want to be in a chance to win this type of camera that you can use, absolutely getting those photos out there, and we'll keep an eye out for them. Make sure you're using the hashtag TMDT icons, and then we'll do it from there. Right, moving swiftly on, I'm going to show you the next thing, which is a video from Ryan from the Design Technology Association. Always lovely to have them here and represented, because obviously they are the voice of our subject. So I'm going to get that playing now and listening to their updates and what's going on over there. So I will get this going, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will all work. Here we go, he says optimistically.
Hi, good morning. Nice to see you, even though I can't see you because I'm not there. This is a recording, but it's nice to be here today. My name's Ryan Ball, and I work for the Design and Technology Association. I just want to say thank you to Drew and the team for inviting me along today. It's just an opportunity really to run through some of the things that are happening at the Design and Technology Association that might be of interest to you, all being well. So the first one is almost a sort of an unknown for lots of people. It's what we call our key resources. So the key resources are completely free to members, and it's a full suite of D&T units for Key Stage 3. Covers all different aspects of the D&T curriculum. We've got units in there for food, for textiles-based units, for systems and control-based units, units based on the environmental impact, etc., etc. So completely free to members of the association. The systems and control ones, covering things like Crumble and Microbit, are almost finished, and these have been written by teachers, for teachers, and are really good quality resources. They have been updated in 2021, so when you're searching for them, there is a link there, but when you're searching for them on our site, make sure that you're looking for the ones that are in 2021. They've been updated, they've been improved, hopefully check them out. It should make your life hopefully a little bit easier. Second thing is e-learning. We have got a growing suite of e-learning courses, which are courses that you can work through at your own pace. So they're not any particular times. You can do them any time of the day. You've got them for primary and secondary teachers, covering a range of different areas. As I say, we've got things from computer-aided design down in primary up to different methods of teaching instead of kind of lecture style teaching in secondary. It's an ever-growing list. We've got some free ones on there as well. We've got currently a free course on sustainability and how to embed sustainability into the D&T curriculum, completely free to work through. Once you have worked through it, you also get the added bonus of 2 free micro bits for your school or for yourself, depending on what you want to do with them. You get them. The whole course is available for a 6-month duration, so you've got a massive window in which to work on them. And each of them are certified, and you also get a digital badge as well, which you can use on LinkedIn, emails, etc., as proof of your ongoing CPD in schools. The other thing that we've got a range of webinars going on throughout the year over a range of months. Again, they tend to be split into primary and secondary, but not exclusively so. And it's also an opportunity to do some networking as well. We have split them up into regional webinars. So we've got South, Midlands, North, for example. But we've also got some standalone ones as well that cover things like F1 in schools, special educational needs, webinars, virtual tours. We've got, like I've mentioned, the regional meetings. Please as well get in touch if there's anything that you would like to share, discuss. We're always looking for people to help with hosting and really to network and grow the community, a bit like these TeachMeets are today. Podcasts. So yeah, we've got again a growing list of podcasts. These are hosted by our CEO, Tony Ryan. Again, they're regular. If you sign up for them, they'll drop into your normal podcast streaming service. They're called Designed for Life. You'll be able to search them through the normal streaming sites. And again, a range of speakers, really inspirational stuff. We've got people like Brian Oppenheim, who's the HMI with lead for D&T. We've got other people such as Jay Blades from the Repair Shop, Zoe Laughlin, who's a really inspirational D&T guru and tinkerer, Nikki Lawler, who is head of design at Vivian Westwood Footwear, and Jamar Semper, who's one of the MasterChef semi-finalists, which is one of the new podcast episodes that's just come out. There's probably about a dozen or so on there. Great listens, are about just under an hour long, perfect for the way to school, possibly. We've also got our magazines. So regular magazines, one called Designing and one called Practice. So these, again, are part of the membership package for D&T Association. Always well received. Best practice and showcasing talent in both schools and industry. I've got posters in them, articles, news, events, really to kind of keep you up to date with the goings on in everything to do with D&T. We're always also welcoming articles from schools. So if you've got something to share, something to question, ask and show, please do get in touch with us. We're always looking for articles. An opportunity, so from PTC. PTC are a company that we're working with at the moment, and PTC are the creators of Onshape. Onshape, I know, is gathering quite a lot of interest in schools as a cloud-based piece of CAD software. Again, free, which is fantastic. And PTC are asking us, they are looking for a focus group of teachers to work with. Really, they want to know from teachers about the software. They're also going to be providing free training for teachers on the software, looking really to generate and create a group of experts almost to really help drive and move forward CAD in UK schools. If you're interested, my colleague's email there is at the bottom, debbie.woodbridge@data.org.uk. Please do drop her a line if this is something that you're interested in or wanted to find out a little bit more information. And finally, other opportunities. There's a range of opportunities going. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, or you are one of our members, you'll get regular emails. For instance, just a few, Royal Opera House Design Challenge. Sounds really random and not linked to D&T. For primary and for Key Stage 3, and I think it goes up to Key Stage 4 as well, opportunities to look at kind of set design and construction within the world of opera and ballet. Might be a nice link there for some schools. Design Engineer Construct have got a new challenge out that's just been put onto Twitter as well, and should be something coming out in my magazine soon, Designing Our COP. The Institute of Civil Engineers have got a fun digital game going out, Think Sim City, to do with civil engineering. Design Ventura Challenge, the TDI Challenge, many, many more. So these are the types of things that we as an association are trying to share with you. I did say finally, I think this is finally, awards. The deadline for our annual awards is creeping up. It's the 28th of May. We're still looking for nominations for colleagues. It's been a bonkers year. And D&T teachers, I think, have gone above and beyond with seeing that in the pandemic and in the classrooms as well. We would really love more nominations to come in. Let's, have a pat on the back for the teachers that are doing fantastic work, and let's really shout about D&T. There'll be an award ceremony in London and possibly one virtually. Who knows? It might be completely virtually. Let's hope not. But again, please do get in touch with us for nominations for awards, and you should be able to find details of that again on our website. Finally, the association is changing. I'm trying my damnedest to make sure that it does change, and it really is an association that is your association. We're listening. We're certainly trying to listen. I'm trying to listen. My email's there. If it's a moan, a gripe, a suggestion, whatever, please do get in touch. I've been a member the whole of my teaching career, and I know, that some of the challenges that it's gone through, and we as a subject still continue to go through. I'm super passionate about D&T, like everybody else is on this TeachMeet, and we really want to work together for the best, possible outcome and outcomes for our subject and our young people that are within D&T. So please do get in touch. Thanks again to Drew, Ali, Dave, etc. on this team for this opportunity. Enjoy the rest of the presentations, and I hope to speak to you very soon. Take care.
Drew, you're muted.
Apologies. I did. Yes, I knew I had to mute myself for the video because you told me. I was so spot on about muting. Fine. Apologies. There we go. That is the phrase of 2021, isn't it? As that you're on mute. Loads of really good association stuff there with the resources. I know I've used quite a few bits and pieces when I attend the meetings with them. It really is useful. Do get nominated for the awards. Now I'm going to move on to one of our sponsors, who I am incredibly excited about. And Sabrina, it's lovely to have you here with us this morning. Thank you for being here. I'll hand over to you to talk, because I've got some stuff here that I wanted to show, but I thought I would do it once you've spoken about who you are. This is D&T all over, as far as I'm concerned. Your company is absolutely, And when I showed the guys last night, they were thoroughly jealous that I'd got this and they hadn't. So, Sabrina, I'll hand over to you.
I'm actually a science teacher by trade, but I've had to do a lot of learning about design. And just on time, here's a small child. Can you leave, please, Lydia?
you see, that's the joys of children.
Sorry.
Do not apologise at all. I'll hand over to you, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Hi, so my name's Sabrina, and I'm the co-founder and co-owner of teacherslovestationery.club. Sorry for the background noise. My husband and I are both teachers, and we also sort of do this on other times outside of our school time. And the reason we started teacherslovestationery.club is because we already subscribe to our own boxes. So we get a gin box once a month, and we get a snack box once a month. And it's really nice because it's like getting a little present to yourself. And I'm really into stationery, so I started looking to see if there was any stationery subscription boxes out there that I might like, but a lot of them seem to be aimed more at sort of professional or office-based workers, or just people who are stationery fans at home. They didn't really seem to be useful for teachers or for use in the classroom, so we decided to start our own subscription box up. And I am going to show you one of our boxes that we recently sent out. This is our May box. So first of all, the boxes are approximately A4 size and about 2 centimeters in depth. So they easily fit through a post box. If you're at work, you're at school during the day, obviously you don't want to come home to one of those raw mail cards saying that you've missed your parcel. So just pop this down here and move my camera. So here we are, here's our box. Once you open it, everything's all nicely wrapped in tissue. And when you first subscribe, you get a pencil case with your name on it. And for DT Icons today, we've made this special pencil case with a cog. Normally it has a star. But if you subscribe today using the code DT Icons, this is the pencil case you will receive. So in last month's box, the theme was sweet treats. We sent out some referral cards because when members refer friends, they get £2 off and their friend gets £2 off. There were some dessert-themed stickers, which are always popular with pupils who like to get those as rewards. Some macaron-themed Post-it notes and matching washi tape. And a useful little notebook, which I always like to have plenty of these little notebooks around for taking notes in meetings or for planning out my next sort of term's worth of lessons. Some Faber-Castell branded highlighters in the colour scheme that matches the box. And a set of erasable pens and a biscuit. I've also popped in here one of our Icons books, but I believe that Drew will be showing you his in a moment, so I'm going to leave that. Lastly, in the Sweet Treats box, we had some Sweet Treat themed reward stickers. And obviously earlier, Drew's been talking about our competition. And if you are a competition winner, you'll receive some DT themed reward stickers. And additionally, again, anyone who subscribes today using the code DT Icons will also receive a set of these stickers in their first box, which will be June's box. Okay, so just to give you a bit of an idea about pricing, it's £12.49 per box, and you can subscribe to get it once a month, once every 2 months, or once every 3 months. So, you know, that option's there. If you'd rather have less or more, that's up to you. And I'm just going to try and share the slide now, just to make sure that you've all got our website down there and the discount code for today. So our website is teacherslovestationery.club. And the code for today is DT Icons. And with that code, you get £2 off your first box, plus the special stickers related just to this event, plus the specially themed pencil case. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So yes, the whole idea, I love subscription boxes. Like you were saying, you know, I've got them for different things. Wine is one of them. What a surprise.
I recommend the gin one. It's very good.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, I've got to be careful because I do try and keep fit next time. Anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, the idea of the stationery, I think, is a fantastic one. And the thing that I love when you sent this through to me this week, which I wanted to show everyone, is the D&T notebook, which I was so proud of when I saw this, but also just thought it's fantastic because I can go round at work and all the different schools that I go into, showing this off and representing TMDT Icons absolutely through and through this notebook. But also it's just really well thought out and laid out you can use the Cornell sort of note technique, the way that you've done the setup, which is brilliant. I know Nick, who's here today, uses that definitely like I do. Fantastic.
I think the other thing is it's so useful to have all of your information in one book, because then when it does come to your annual performance review, and my school uses Blue Sky, so that's really easy to evidence, but some schools don't. And if you've got all your evidence in one place at your end of year review, it's just so handy. So
this is going to be my new Bible, absolutely, most certainly. Excellent stuff. Fit the primary schools or secondaries that I'm going into, but I think it's just the way that you've laid it out is just.
Thank you.
It really is. When I saw that, I love the idea of the cues on the left-hand side, and then the notes in the middle of that is the Cornell, no problem. The summary at the bottom, fantastic. And obviously with the best logo on the front, of course.
Yes, definitely.
Subject, you know, I'm not that I'm obviously biased at all. But thank you so much, and I know I will definitely be subscribing.
Amazing.
June's box, absolutely, and obviously everyone has seen the stickers that are available to win this morning, so make sure that we're using the hashtag and go and give them a like and a follow over at Teachers Love Stationery as well, please.
And just to let everyone know, those DT Icons books are available in a separate box that's just for TeachMeet Icon customers. They're also on our website. You get a pack with lots of little bits and pieces to write in that as well if you're interested in looking.
That's great.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Sindri.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Cheers, and you too.
Bye-bye. Right, okay, we'll move swiftly on to our next. So Jo Marshall couldn't be here with us this morning because she's otherwise engaged, but she sent me a video over who she's going to show and talk to you about what she's been doing over at her school. But I know she said to me that any questions or anything that you wanted to ask or follow up, please send it over to her on Twitter regarding this, and she's more than happy to get back in touch with you. So without further ado, now the last video worked, so let's hope this one works as well. I'll get that going, and then yes, you can see what's going on in her world. So let's get going. Here we go, fingers crossed.
Hi everyone, I'm Jo. I'm Head of Design Technology at an inner city academy in Leicester. Prior to that, I taught in a couple of Birmingham schools. I'm just going to be focusing on just a couple of things that you may well take away with you, that you might find beneficial to maybe come up with some strategies to improve student exam technique. I'm really sorry that I can't be there presenting live. It's actually probably a good thing. Usually something always goes wrong when I try and present live, whether it's my camera or my microphone. So hopefully this all goes quite smoothly. So this isn't everything that we do to prepare our students for the exam, but it's just a couple of things, and I'm just conscious of time because I think have packed too much into this presentation. So if you want to discuss anything further, or if you want to have a look at some of our class booklets, please feel free to message me on Twitter and I will get back to you. So when our students opt in year 8, when the students are in year 9, right at the start of year 9, we print out an exam paper for them each, and we don't ask them to do the paper, we just get them to look through the paper, and so that they can familiarise themselves with the exam wording and the exam terminology that we see across the papers. We do Educast, but I know that some people prefer AQA because of the nature of the multiple choice questions and whatnot. We spend a lot of time talking through and explaining thoroughly the exam specification, how the grade boundaries work, how many marks you need to get a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, 8. We show them how the exam paper is broken down into 2 sections. We get them to look at the number of marks and add the number of marks up, so they become quite confident and understand actually why we're teaching them certain things and why we've arranged our curriculum in a particular way. So we ask students to read the specification. We would discuss it as a class. We'll have a few lessons talking about the specification and what we're learning and why we're learning it. Students can annotate it and make notes and highlight areas. So when we give the students the exam paper, actually right from year 7, and you'll see some examples in a minute of how we introduce students to these words, because these are some exam questions just taken from some of an Educast paper, but there may well be some similarities to other example papers. In Educast, we see these words repeated continuously throughout paper, words like state, calculate, evaluate, analyse, discuss, describe. And it's pretty much every single question has one of these words in. So for every class booklet, we don't use exercise booklets, we have class booklets. Right at the front, we have this sheet glued in, and students are familiar with these words. Right from year 7, we have them in do now tasks. It might be a class discussion, it might be some low stakes testing, it might be extended written work. So students become used to seeing these words, and therefore they're confident when looking at an exam question that have these words in. So here's an example from a class booklet on papers and boards for year 9, and we encourage the students to highlight those key words And the class booklet students actually revise from for their exam. So we tell them they need to write as much as possible because they have more to revise from. But you can see how we encourage students to use particular words in their answers, words like sustainability, environment. They have to try and use those words. So when they're used to doing that, they remember they have to include certain words in their answers. So we teach them to highlight as well, and they will revise from these pages in their class booklet. So we have words like that can actually be used for other topics such as plastics or electronics, but words like finite, non-finite, renewable, biodiversity, life cycle, etc. So here's a page from our Year 7 timber rotation booklet. So you can see that we train them exam technique as soon as they get into secondary school, really, and we teach them words like deforestation, habitats, wildlife, biodiversity, non-finite, finite, ethically sourced materials. And so we don't do this in exam conditions. Some of these we actually have as a class discussion, and students write their answers in full sentences, and they get used to actually looking at the number of marks that are available for an answer. So it's normal to them. By the time they come into Year 9, it's normal for them to be working in this particular way. And here's an example of another page. So those words like evaluate, describe, state, calculate. And then we have these low stakes testing questions built in throughout the booklet. And we have the maths as well. So these maths questions came from Corbett Maths. I'll show you some more in a minute when I talk a bit more about the maths. But students are used to maths practice too. So this is just a page from the Year 8 booklet. And a couple more here. And we get the students to circle words and decode the wording of the exam questions. So what does advantage mean? What does disadvantage mean? What does mass production mean? What does evaluate mean? We get them to circle it and we get them to make notes on it, so that they're used to seeing these words. So by the time they come into Key Stage 4, they know exactly how to answer exam questions. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about the maths. So we work really closely with the maths department, and the way that the maths department may teach particular mathematical methods, we mirror that as well. So we're not sitting together as a department scratching our heads thinking how on earth we're going to teach ratio, and trying to Google how to teach it, or what method we need to use. We actually make sure that we have those conversations with the maths teachers. And maths is something that we encourage in every single design technology lesson. We use a lot of Corbett Maths and Hegarty Maths, and I just changed the wording of the questions so that it actually suits what we're teaching in design technology. We use scientific calculators as well. I ordered the same ones that the maths department did, so students are used to using calculators in lessons and not phones. And then we show them how much maths is on the exam paper as well. It's really helpful to go and observe maths teachers if you get the chance, because I picked up so many ideas and tips from the maths department watching them teach maths, that I've actually brought into design technology lessons, and then show to other design technology teachers. And it's really important that we understand the mathematical language, and students understand the mathematical language in the design technology paper. So here's an example here of a maths question, and I've just highlighted the average, and average means the mean. And sometimes this can throw students a little bit and trick them out, and they panic because if this was in a maths paper, it might be worded slightly differently as calculate the mean. So if students understand that average means the mean, they'll be able to work that out. And also getting rid of the gobbledygook as well. So sometimes maths questions in design technology papers, they have a lot of information in, and it can trick students out and they panic. And we've seen this lately with some students in year 10. So we're doing quite a lot of work with them on the wording of maths questions. So things like the average diameter of the index finger of 5 students was found to be 16 millimeters. So we get the students to make sure that they can identify what the maths is. What is the mathematical calculation that they need to work out? So we get them to just to circle the relevant parts of the question. And again there. There's just a few strategies here that I use to make things stick. So when teaching about the mode, I teach it the mode is the most common, mode is the most common, and then medium is in the middle. You know, things like that. I've put a couple of videos there, but I don't think I'm going to have time to play them. But again, if you want any of our math stuff, then I'm happy to kind of send these links to you. And using worked examples really help as well. So we will talk through the maths with the students. We'll have examples on the board. Can you explain to me why this answer is wrong? Or how did I get to this answer? And actually getting students to do that problem solving of the maths. And we make sure that it's really important to create an environment where students feel like it's okay to get wrong answers. It's okay if you don't get it right, as long as you're learning from it. And that works really well for us. So you can word things like, I'm going to ask a few people to give me their answer, but before I do, it's absolutely fine if you don't get it right first time. We're practicing to get it right. So you can see here, I'm just going to go through just some examples of our maths questions in our this is a mixture of Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 class booklets. So we've got tessellation. These all came from Corbett Maths. Drawing a net, surface area, costings and percentages, volume. Obviously, this is links to the electronic work that the students do in the lesson. So everything links together. Bar charts, ratio. And again, these are the websites that we use. And we also have built-in line paper into our class booklets for students to make notes, answer questions. We have built-in sample boards as well. So this is separate to obviously the practical work that they do. So again, these booklets are used as kind of visual revision guides that they can take home and revise. So I'm just going to show you an example of a class booklet. This is purely on exam revision. It doesn't include things like writing a design brief and design specification and design ideas. This is purely just for exam revision. So this is an example of a class booklet on metals. So I'm just going to talk through it. So the first part of the booklet, we just have some interesting facts about metals. So I'm going to keep pausing this as I'm talking through it. And then again, we have that page that I referred to earlier about the wording of the exam questions. We've got some worked questions here, including some maths ones. And then we have some knowledge organisers as well. So we encourage students to read in the lesson, or I will read to them, or sometimes they take it in turns to read. So this is just on metal. So we have some low stakes questions there, and then we have these QR codes. So a student would use their phone, they can take their booklet home to revise from, and then we've made our own oak style lessons. So that's all about where metal comes from, extraction of ore. We've got the pause points built in there as well. And then after the 15-minute lesson, they have a quiz. So this enables us to keep track of student progress. And students can do these quizzes more than once, but we actually have electronic record of their scores, and we've got some built-in exam questions there. So everything on this page, or if you just go back slightly, everything on this page is all about the ecological and social issues of extraction of ore and metal as a material. And then we've got ferrous metals. We've got the exam questions, and you can see at the top that I've put in some words that I want students to refer to in their answers. So words like malleable, ductile, corrosion. And students keep a record of their score from the quizzes. And again, they have another lesson. So we teach this as normal lessons to the students, but this is something that they can do at home. When they submit their score, they also get their results straight away, and they get automatic feedback as well. So this is a current topic that we're doing, so not every page is completed yet. And then you can have these QR codes built in so that they can link up to websites. And then with machinery, it can also link up to videos. So students can see how these machines work in industry. And you can see the low stakes questions built in continuously throughout the booklet. There's space for diagrams and sketches. And then metal finishes as well. We also have iPads in school, so students can do this on the school iPads. So just a video showing an example of powder coating and how that's done in industry. So more exam questions. We've got the maths built in there as well. and some real exam questions. And then there's just some extra space at the back for any revision notes as well. And we have our sample pages. So that's it from me. But if you'd like to discuss anything that I've talked about in a little bit more detail, please do message me on Twitter, or there's my school email address. That I'm quite busy at the moment, so if I'm a little bit slow at replying to you, I do apologise for that. But hopefully there have been a couple of things that maybe you can take away with you today and implement into your own lessons or across your department if you're a head department.
You're muted, Drew.
Again,
You know what?
video is that video?
This is giving me a lot of satisfaction now, because this is twice now, and it's giving me a lot.
I know. Listen,
third time, I
can
control the stream, so I'll just drop you out next time you're muted. I'll bring Dave on or Nick on.
Perfect. Yes, they're probably better at it than me. I was saying, yeah, I thought the use of the QR codes is brilliant. Absolutely love that. I know I've seen stuff online that Joe's put up with that before, which is superb, and it's definitely something I think I'm going to look into as well. Wherever she is, I thank her for her time making that video. It's greatly appreciated. Right, just going to move on. We've got our next ones, which is Wellbe, which I think, given the current situation, teacher wellbeing is probably incredibly important at this quite unusual and difficult time. There's a video that's going to just be played to demonstrate what they offer, and it's something that I would definitely strongly recommend to people taking back to their schools and management, maybe to look into investing in, to actually help improve wellbeing, which I think we can all get behind, given the current situation. I know we've only got a week until sort of half term. For some people, I know not everybody's got the same sort of half term pattern in certain schools, but yeah, we'll watch the video, and then after that we're going to have Nick come on and talk about retrieval practices, and then we'll finish off with you, and then that will be it for this morning's event. So we're nearly at the end. Thank you so much for being here so far, and yes, we'll Tom, if you've got the video to hand, then we'll get that.
Wellbe is a systemised solution which helps improve staff well-being and build it into your school culture. You can see where you are now and plan where you want to be. Using the evidence-based survey, the Health and Safety Executives Indicator tool, you can see your staff members' scores in your online dashboard. This shares a full report including analysis, benchmarks and heat maps. Use our suggested priority actions, which means it's much easier and faster to take positive steps. Staff also share their comments, providing further insight into actions needed, and you're able to respond to them anonymously, creating greater engagement. Wellbe allows you to easily share your results with staff and governors using a PowerPoint presentation which you can easily download. You can book a results review call with a wellbeing expert and let us help you set the right goals and actions to achieve the outcomes you need. With Wellbe Voice, you can follow up on post-survey actions and track progress over the next 12 months. You can also use it for anything else, where staff anonymity will help. For example, with consultations or following a change. Send staff members a message, ask a question or seek feedback. It's as easy as sending an email. The one difference being, it is an anonymous conversation. You can invite all staff to take part or groups as little as 8. This means that you only need to invite relevant staff, such as those affected by the changes you've made. This might be teachers, support staff, middle leaders, teaching assistants, or any group of staff in your school. You choose the titles you use. Staff receive their invitation by email, click on the button to respond through a web page, only they see and are able to send you their feedback. You see this in your school dashboard, where you can read and choose to respond if you wish. You can set up multiple users across your leadership team to share workload and enable others to seek feedback from their team. It really is that easy. Our online user guides make sure Wellbe, Survey and Voice are quick and easy to use. Our online toolkit will help accelerate your progress and ensure you reach the outcomes you need. The available resources are targeted at those areas we know will build your foundations and have the biggest impact on staff well-being, and include a staff well-being policy and strategy template, 12 competencies proven to prevent and reduce staff stress, and the ability to self-assess against these through 4 online questionnaires. This means that all your leaders will have a high awareness of those behaviours that will make well-being simply part of your everyday culture. Online training in 5 of the key behaviours that will make the biggest difference in your school. Add 12 months of ongoing remote support through email, phone or video call, and systemize how you improve the well-being and performance of your staff. Start today and register for your account, or book a full demonstration.
Okay, thank you very much, Wellbe, for that. As I've said, it's something that I think we can all get behind and do, I think, more of actual personal well-being. I know that's something I can definitely agree with. We move on to Nick. Nick, nice to see you this morning. I hope you're keeping well. I'll hand over to you, dear sir. I'll let you go. Go.
Perfect. Morning, guys. Thank you for spending your morning with us. So building on really what Joe started to kind of introduce to you, the idea of the knowledge behind the skill. And I know we started with Kate at the start of this session today, looking at materials and experimenting and testing. But we know since 2017, our subject has got a little bit more challenging in terms of the academic rigour. And I've spent a lot of time over the last year or two looking at how we can develop our students and prepare our students for that exam that they need to be sitting at the end of year 11, year 12 or 13. So the more exposure we can give our students to retrieve this knowledge that we impart on them throughout our teaching, whether it be to support the practical skills that we are developing, or whether it's something we do as a standalone. And I know that Jo does a lot of that in her teaching. It's about making sure that we can support our students in transferring that knowledge that they are picking up from lesson to lesson between their long-term memory and their working memory quite easily. And the more exposure you give them to this, the easier it does become. And now I'll just put a little quote in there from Paul Kersher saying that the more that you, before you start something new, you need to be able to retrieve the old or that prior learning. And I've spent a lot of time in the last year on a leadership program where we focused on preparing our departments for the for New Ofsted and for the push of retrieval practice and the building on prior learning, and this sits perfectly well within that. And obviously then it's more subject specific today for us. So here we've got the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. So the idea that you first learn something and then over a period of time you will forget it. So it's important that you keep plugging back at that and revisiting that piece of knowledge or skill in our case, to make sure that we can keep refreshing it and bringing it back from our long-term memory back into our working memory to strengthen that skill and retain that knowledge or skill going forward. And the more times that you can retrieve it, the stronger that that link becomes, and that mental model, if you like, becomes of that. So what we're looking at in our curriculum is looking at spaced retrieval. So rather than looking back at what we did last week and let's remember it today, we're looking at what we did last term, a different project, last year, a previous key stage, or even looking back into primary schools as well. So just thinking back to what your students know today or what you want them to know for the learning today, but also thinking back further back than we have currently, and think about how can we support, encourage our students to dig a bit deeper into their memory, into their long-term memory, and pull that information back. Because what we need them to do in year 11, year 12, year 13 is think back over the course of their 5 years or their 7 years in secondary and answer and apply all that knowledge in an exam condition. So the more exposure you can give them, and obviously Jo has spoken at great depth there in her session about preparing students right the way from year 7 with command words and how to break exam questions down. It leads very nicely into supporting them in retrieving and accessing the knowledge we need them to have. So the way that we deliver it in our school is through tiers. So different tiers of retrieval practice. So tier 1, very low stakes quiz. Why do we do it? We do it to support the students in confidence and resilience. I know on the back of COVID and coming out of periods of lockdown, student confidence in their abilities and lost learning time is quite poor. I know from my experiences, lots of our students, particularly our 10s and 11s, are worried. But if you can do things like tier 1 retrieval practice activities, if you like, or techniques, it just builds that confidence and it gives them resilience, because you're exposing them to successes. Things that we do in school are low stakes true and false quizzes, multiple choice questions, and some code breakers. And then as a school, we use Doug Lemov's TLAC strategies. So we would then use things like show and call, so whiteboards, write your answer on, pop it up in the air, call and response. So if you don't know it, I'm going to tell you the answer, but I want you to chant it back to me or record it back to me and show me what you know. Moving on then into tier 2. So this is where I want a little bit more from my students. So this is more looking at the decorative knowledge. So flipping it around. So rather than me saying, right, here's the question, what's the answer? I'm going to give you the answer, but actually what questions might there be that lead to that answer? So you could be, here's the answer, give me 3 questions that could lead to that possible answer. Thinking and linking grids. So again, you're going to give them 2 key terms. So for example, ash and plywood. Using your knowledge organisers, I want you to create me a link between those 2 materials, or deforestation and finite materials. Again, find me a link between the 2. Picture and prompt recall. So you give them a picture, you give them some kind of prompt, and they've got to try prompt, and they've got to try and make that link to recall that piece of knowledge. A power ticket, which is quite good, and I'll give you some of the examples in a little while. And again, if you want to tweet me, I will share any of these templates with you. A power ticket is where you give them over a period of time. So looking back at the last 4 weeks of learning, I want you to recall as much as you can about a topic from each lesson and write it down over a set amount of time. And then I use knowledge blocks over a topic. So for us, if we've been looking at timbers, I will give them a knowledge block with all the topics that we've looked at through the timber unit. And then they have got 10-15 minutes using a black or blue pen, as our school policy is, to recall as much as they can for those units. And then we will swap over to a green pen for our school policy. And then using their notes or their knowledge book, they will add to it in green pen, so we can see then as a class teacher what they can retrieve and how they've independently then reflected and improved their pieces of work. And then for tier 3, it's the deeper understanding and knowledge, which is more the application procedural knowledge that you would be looking at for an exam style question. So we've got exam questions there, challenge grids, where you maybe get an Excel sheet with 12 boxes on, and you put 12 different exam questions on and expect them over a period of time to answer all those questions. Or a retrieval raffle ticket. This works particularly quite well with the boys. So because it's kind of left to chance, there's 12 questions on a sheet, and we're going to spin a wheel. Whichever number comes out, that's the question we're going to answer today. And then you can remove that, and then that's one taken out the mix. So next lesson, we'll do the same again. And again, over a course of time, you'll have them answering some high-marked GCSE exam questions. With TLAC there, we've got wait time. So when you ask a student a question, you will give them the time to wait. There is no opt-out. If you know as a class that your class just don't recall it or can't retrieve it, don't be worried to stop, do some boards of paper work, and you go through and model the answer with them, but you get them then to answer that as a group in their books or on the exam question that you're tackling. If you know that they've done the exam question and they've maybe missed some marks, give them it again, do it again. And also works quite well with lower ability students and with some of our lazier boys. Start at the end. So in our lessons, give them the questions at the very start of the lesson. They're not going to answer them at the start of the lesson. They're going to answer them at the end. But throughout that knowledge delivery or that skill that they're developing, they can constantly be thinking about, I know I've got to answer these questions at the end of today's lesson or as a homework task. So if you give them the questions at the start, their ears prick up a little bit more as they're progressing throughout that lesson or period of learning. So by doing this, you can expose the students to that retrieval of knowledge. Hopefully, you'll see that first exposure to the knowledge, you would be using tier 1. The second time you're exposing the students and expecting them to retrieve it, you would maybe using a tier 2 activity. And then the more that you go on beyond that, you can be using those tier 3 deeper understanding of exam question or exam style questions for that. So in my teaching, these are some of the examples that I use. So I've got the code breaker at the top left here for tier 1. So you've got the question at the top, you've got the answers at the bottom attached to a number, and they've got to try and work out which code would crack the safe in this case. Then we're moving on to true and false, quite simple really. Try and put some ones that are linked to their learning, but also thinking back further afield, if you can chuck some things into there. Again, for some of our weaker students or lazier boys, the idea of buckets of knowledge works quite well, and I know Dave uses this quite a lot. So just pick 3 topics that you've done over a course of a year, key stage, put all of the keywords that are linked to that topic, and the students have got to colour code it or shape code it to group and attach those groups of knowledge together. Tier 2, where you want a little bit more from the students, so the idea of linking knowledge, so they get 4 words and they've got to come up with a link for that. So that's the idea of linking them, and then using a visual there as a stimulus. So write all that you can about these 3 topics. So in this is a year 7 piece for me. This was from virtual learning last year. So cutting, waste and braiding, and sanding. So then students had got 15 minutes at the start of the lesson while I was doing the admin and texting parents saying, can you get your students online, to complete this task and send it back to me. But you're asking students to just recall, retrieve, and get down what they can. And then you can go through it and share it with the group. And then looking at, this is the knowledge blocks. So the knowledge blocks idea here, so we've got one there on timber, so coping saws, comb joints, softwoods, cosh, glass paper, manufacturing aids, and so forth. But students have been given a period of time to write all that they know on a double page spread about that topic. And then the flipping it sheet on the right hand side there. So I'm giving them the answer. What could the possible questions be that lead to the answer? For these types of activity with the flip it really makes the higher ability students think, because they're so used to you being presenting them a question and they've got to come up with the answer, whereas you give them the answer and they've got to come up with a question. They stop and really think, what could it be? And then the retrieval raffle tickets here. So here we've got a series of numbers. You click on the link at the top, it will take you to a random generator. Then it will pick up that we're going to today we're going to answer question 7. So they will all stop, they will all answer question 7, and you can do this as many times within your lesson as you want. And on the right there we've got thinking and linking. So you've got a box of 20 keywords, I think it is there. They've got to pick 2 keywords and they've got to create the link, the relationship between the 2 words themselves for the tier 2. This is something that we've done, and it worked quite well. I've done this with year 10 and year 11 as part of their revision. So you give them their knowledge organizer, you give them their topics in the inner hexagon, and then you say, right, you've got 2 minutes, start at the beginning, you've got 4 minutes using your own knowledge to recall. So they'll fill that next web with their own knowledge using 4 minutes. Then they'll have their class notes using 3 minutes to fill out the next web. And then the outer web, they will have the last 2 minutes to use any printed resources, knowledge books, knowledge organisers you give them. So you can see over the course of 10 minutes, they've got their own independent reflection, the scaffolded support, and then they've got the answers from their knowledge organisers or knowledge books that you share with them within the lessons. And it's just about giving them the ownership of that. Here we've got the power tickets. So the idea that over the course of a topic, you can get them to recall 3 things from specific topics that you have specified, and then a key terms retrieval grid on the right hand side. So here's the key terms, what the definitions be. I tend to use this for a kind of a homework task or independent study task, but I also have these printed in a trace. If I know that a student's finished a little bit early from practical, go and grab one of these and give them out to them. And then we've got revision clocks, which these are an example of a year 7 and a year 8 revision clock here, looking at the topics that we've done in preparation for their end of topic assessments. Again, I use time scaffolds with these. So I say, right, you've got 10 minutes using your brain, then you've got 6 minutes using your notes, and then you've got 5 minutes using any printed resources that we've given you throughout that time. Over the course of a key stage here, you can see I've got a challenge grid. So there's 2 questions there from year 7, 2 questions from year 8, and 2 questions from year 9. So again, using a time scaffold, students have got maybe 6 minutes or 8 minutes to answer those. And then using green pen, they've got to go around the room and find students to match up and find the corrected answers, so they can tick and self-assess and peer assess their own work. And then on the right-hand side, this was working quite well in terms of getting student confidence back up. So give them a question. The first time they're going to do it is going to be what's their answer. Then they're going to rag their answer. So how confident are they with their answer they've given? So they put R, A, or a G, and then they go around and we'll do a class feedback on what the correct answer was. They'll write it in the last column, and then you can see them how confident they were as to whether that translated into a corrected answer at the end. Other than that, that's all I've got to share for you today. If you do want any of these resources, do drop me a message on Twitter. My Twitter is on the bottom of the screen. Back to you, Drew.
There we go. Hello. Hi there. Just waiting for that thing to come back in. Thanks for that, Nick. It's massively interested, and it's something that I know I've seen your stuff and I've used it in my teaching, and it's great. And having done my MA, and that was in that was part of my final dissertation, the retrieval practice stuff. The amount of research behind it, it proves a point, doesn't it? It genuinely does work. Yeah, it does. And I know, not that we're shouting out and plugging books and things today, Kate Jones' Retrieval 1 and 2 books. I appear in both. But, lots and lots of, there's no royalties coming from this store. There's somewhere over there. Somewhere over there is the book with you in, definitely. Yeah. There's lots and lots of examples and templates and things that you can use, and she's got a Dropbox that you can click on and get all the resources and things from as well, which is it's amazing. I think Tom won't mind us plugging Kate, obviously, because obviously connection there, obviously with Tom. That's fine. Yes, yeah, Kate's got a good couple of books. I know I've read them. Same as loads of them. And yeah, it's nice to actually. What for me is nice, and I hope that you feel the same. It's nice to have our subject represented. Very often, it's not. Yeah. And you there, representing us is fantastic. I thank you, for what you've shared this morning. I'm sure everyone else will find it engaging. Something I just wanted to finish off with is obviously because we were talking about Hugh and their visualizers. You've used visualizers in your teaching during the lockdown, didn't you, Nick? Because you were talking. Yep. So we've used visualizers and we've used the graphics tablets as well. Particularly for our, we made the decision to start a mock NEA during lockdown. So it was great, and I know James Beach does a lot of this. It's great for modelling, it's great for walkthroughs and talkthroughs of asking students to do things. And rather than have a whole series of PowerPoint slides prepared that you're kind of stuck to, it was a very fluid process with our Key Stage 4 groups where it was just using a visualizer and a big sheet of paper or the graphics tablets and Microsoft Whiteboard. It was a fluid process. So if the kids were asking questions through the lesson, we'd stop. Another, arrow would come from the mind map or the learning web that we've had for today. And it's a great visual. Also, going back into teaching, we were using our visualizers, and I've got the blue hue visualizer that's the giveaway. It's great for just sticking it on your teacher bench, pointing it to the device and doing a demonstration in a practical to a group without traditionally you'd have them around the front bench, keeping them in their spaces in a safe place, and you still being able to deliver and impart those skills. It's a great tool. Could not agree with you more. Absolutely. I think visualizers, I'd used them before years ago for electronics. Because obviously sometimes it's quite difficult to show circuit board creation and the soldering, but it was a bit clunky back there. It's going back, a few years now. But actually now with things like the Hue visualizer, it's so easy just to plug and play. You can use the camera app that's built into Windows or even a Mac or whatever, Chromebooks even as well, because we have Chromebooks within my school and trust. And actually the Hue one is I'd probably say one of the easiest to use. Yeah, because it is just so simple. And I mean the one that I've got here, obviously you've got the USB port at the bottom there, so you can plug it straight into the side of a computer that's got USB, or you've then got the base as well. I'll just get it out so that it can then obviously stand up and be used. And in fact, only yesterday when I was at one of the academies within my trust in Manchester, the teacher came in to observe the lesson, and she was using one of these cameras, it was the green one, to demonstrate example packaging designs for her year 10s for their project they were doing. And it worked really well because it was just plugged in the Hue camera, it was on the projector, the kids could clearly see, and I was saying right at the back of the classroom, but because she got it on the smart board using the Hue camera, it was clearly easy to see and what she was trying to explain. And actually, I think one of the big takeaways from all this is actually these visualizers, things like the Hue, are really, really impressive to use. And I think it's something that people need to be using and adapting as part of the teachers. And I agree with you with regards to in a practical environment. I've done exactly the same in recent weeks. I've been at the front with my Hue camera, putting it up onto the projector, showing the kids what to do. Perfect. And in fact, I've recorded some things so that I've then put it onto what we use in Google Classroom, and then they can just re-watch those things back time and time again. So they are incredibly useful, these Hue cameras. And
I've fully invested in every member of staff having a Hue camera as part of their teaching toolbox.
Exactly. I can't see. There are quite a lot of different ones out there, and I've used some of them. You know, they all have their merits, but for simplicity, this is, I'd say, the easiest one to use.
Definitely.
It's just a plug and play. Some of the others I found need specialist software. This doesn't. You can just run through. And the Oak National Academy lessons that I know myself and Kate, who's here today, also was involved, as well as quite a few other teachers. This is what Oak used, and that's why all their lessons look so professional. Not mine, of course, but everyone else's. They look so professional because these have been used to show off the lesson work that's been produced.
I've used my camera, my Hue camera, as a recording tool for me. So when I've recorded lessons, like our primary sessions this year have kind of been we've like this. We've recorded, to a camera and sent them out to their schools. I've used my Hue camera for that. I've just kept it upright and pointing directly at me. And it's superb.
They seem to be the one that teachers go for, and I think because they are just so simplistic and easy to use. And of course, today there is a chance to win one. So if you are still interested in winning one, please make sure that you're taking a photo of yourself with your favorite design book. I know I've seen a few people up with their books in their pictures. I even saw Dave, but Dave, you can't win. So do make sure that you engage with the competition if you are interested, as well as the Teacher Love Stationery competition for the stickers and stuff, and then give them some love as well, definitely. And thank you also to Wellbe and to Pupil Progress for sponsoring today's event as well. But otherwise, that is it for today. I can't thank you enough for being here and sticking with us for all this time. Hopefully you found it useful and engaging. But otherwise, that's it. I will let everybody go off and enjoy their afternoon. Tom, hello, sorry.
I might just say thanks to you, thanks to the whole team. Fantastic event. Loads of good comments on Twitter about it already. Loads of good feedback. One thing I will say, anybody watching who wants to pick up the recording, they can visit TMDT Icons. It's the pinned tweet on there. So you can sign up for the recording for this event. Anybody who happens to be watching right now who wants to access the recording. But thanks very much, gents. It was fantastic. And thanks to all the sponsors as well.
Thank you very much for all being here. Lovely. Take care. Stay safe, everybody.